There are 7.5 billion living souls on planet Earth. How could we all possibly be relevant? We are all relevant because within each of us is a custom-built, unique story. We are all significant, we do matter, and I'm going to prove it one amazing story at a time. My home province of Ontario makes up 0.2% of the global population, and we're going to start there. One day, I will call on you. Well, here we are, the final episode of Richard's journey. It's very bittersweet. What was supposed to be a half-hour one-off chat has turned into something very important to me and my family. Richard and Mike didn't come into our lives until we were in our 20s. It was like ordering Best Friends on Amazon Prime. They were just there in a flash. The bonds were fast and fierce. These guys were a walking, talking testament to an uncle I never got to know. When they started to pull away, there was confusion and pain. I think by the end of this episode, not only will my family understand why, but we can start to enjoy each other again, just under different parameters. This makes me happy. Maybe others looking for answers will stumble upon this series and relate just a little. That would be a gift from Richard, thanks to his willingness to just open up and reveal everything in hopes we get a glimmer of understanding. Okay, so here we go, on to this final episode. Let's just dive right in and talk about fear.
Obviously, my biggest fear current date is that my door would be open to the world to walk in.
Right.
And any given threat that I feel that's out there would come in, whether it be a burglar, whether it be malicious people, whether it be a dirty animals, or whether it be somebody that's going to come in that just finished rolling around in a dumpster. Just anything that I feel that's going to come in and make the world turn it upside down. So, like, that's my biggest. It's one of the biggest. I have a couple of other things that, come close, and I don't like the bathroom. I'm assuming that my reasons for that is I figured that it's people passing human waste, and you associate that with when you hear about all the E. coli stories and things like that going down. When it's like, don't eat this, you're going to get sick, it'll kill you because of E. coli, and then they find the source was just improper hand washing at the processing plant, or
Right.
or a store employee or a restaurant employee, etc. So you think to yourself, like, well, what would they be doing? Well, the first thing is they went to the bathroom, didn't wash their hands, didn't flush the toilet, maybe loose clothing when they sat down on the toilet or close to a urinal or anything else like that, and then they just touched the clothing again. Just anything like that. So bathroom has become my biggest germ existing, like things that are come back, because now I could drop something on the floor and pick it up, but I still have issue if somebody's gone to the bathroom and I don't hear that they've washed their hands, or just anything like that. Of course, I still would never pick up anything edible or utensils that work with food. That those things go in the garbage immediately.
Right.
Now, what has happened with the food and things with the E. coli is that I've gone and tried to figure out what's all the sources. And then I learned that during the winter time, we obviously get all our fruits and vegetables and things like that. We get them from the deep south, and sometimes even from Mexico. And if you go into the grocery store and everything else, and it'll say a product of the United States or a product of Mexico. That's something that has become a very huge focus point. When I would go shopping, we'd go in and I'd be like, oh, we can't pick those tomatoes because those tomatoes come from Mexico. Now, it was never like any kind of a prejudice towards it coming from Mexico, but the problems that I learned while researching in Mexico, when they have everybody picking in the fields, such cheap labor, and everybody's scared that once they go and take a break to do things, they're being docked pay. So a lot of people were actually defecating in the fields. So they're going through and they're picking, say, lettuce and different things like that, and however, and instead of being docked for the time that they have to leave the field to go use the bathroom or the porta potties or anything like that, they would just squat down after just a few feet from where they just finished going through. And one thing that made me go look deeper into that was some people, and as I say, these may not be facts and things that you read on the internet, because you can't believe everything on the internet, but some things were like a certain item that did make main news was that they were finding toilet paper in between leaves of cabbage and different leafy greens and things. And it's because they were hiding. They were trying to hide that they were out there defecating, because they obviously got in trouble. And then sometimes they found that, nobody was monitoring these people, that after a couple of days break or whatever, if they weren't there 7 days a week, somebody had maybe died in the heat and in the field and had been laying amongst the vegetables and things like that. And of course, you don't lose that money and time and etc. You move the corpse and continue on. Like, they come and remove the worker. And I was dumbfounded. And one of the things, I think it was the cilantro, was the product that I seen the hit main news with that being a thing of saying, well, they don't pay their workers. The workers are hard worked. They work out in the field for so long. And in most cases, don't even have a chance to leave the field to use the washroom and defecate in the fields.
Well, I don't think I'll ever look at food the same way in the grocery store again.
Trust me, there's many things that I've researched, and I remember on my first podcast I had said about my fears. The only thing I have no problems of sharing and continuing through with my story. The only thing is sometimes I fear that when I tell somebody how much I've researched, it's almost like you don't want to unlift the cover to something and discover it. And somebody's like, oh my God, I didn't know that. So now you've affected me.
Richard is talking about good old hysteria. The problem with hysteria is it's usually based on fact.
They'd haul garbage down in a container, dump that container, and they would be bringing back food in the container. And it was all for cost cutting. Hey, I'm buying product that is being shipped back from, say, Texas, that had just went down in a container that was just loaded with landfill. I bought the product. It said it was good for 7 days or whatever still, but the employers, the stores are like, I'm not throwing that out. It costed me. I'm the franchise owner of this, and we must push this for another day. So I'm weary of things that you see, like the sticker with the little orange sticker on the thing with the expiration date. I won't use those products because those little orange stickers can be peeled and stuck back.
Right.
And
yep.
so can be the white product, like the white sticker that goes on that has the packaged by, etc., packaged on certain date, expires by a certain date. But we've become pretty good with knowing how food looks and feels, particularly meats and things. But we've had a couple. We even just had last week where we brought home chicken, and the packaging seems fine, the date's fine, but you just get it, start cooking, and it just smells awful. You can tell right away it's spoiled.
The other thing about hysteria, it sells, and we're all buying.
Nobody realizes that commercials like Lysol and bleach and all those things are actually selling to screw with your mind, because they want you to believe that your surroundings and everything else are absolutely contaminated. So you'll run and buy their product.
Right.
And because the one thing I was listening to a show the other morning, and it's like talking about the lead issues that are going to pop up in Toronto with all the infrastructure being old and being in the water. So the first thing is like everybody's going to be like, oh no, there's lead in the water. Well, the one person who went on on a talk show the other morning, I listened to on AM 640, they said long before there was all this testing and the methods they did, no one died. No one had, that didn't kill no one. Now that there's hypersensitive testing and everything else, minute things are no longer acceptable, and it's in there, and it's going to turn into a crisis, and it's going to be unnecessary breakdown and clearing out of these things. They pour things down the pipes to try to insulate them, like a coating, to try to stop lead that leaks into the water system. and everything else. And if it really bothers you, go get a purification system and put it on your taps, or main tap it down in the basement, wherever.
Mm-hmm.
But hasn't killed you yet, and it isn't good to be ingesting lead and so forth. So in some ways, a lot of hysteria can be brought on by somebody that wants to sell something.
Okay, I know what you've all been thinking. If Richard is doing all this research on hysteria and fears, is he doing research on treatment? Does he put as much time and effort into looking at ways to improve his OCD?
I have. I've tried to. I've gone over things that I could see that what one person has done and things like that, and everything does go through like early days that I've been looking into it, and it is funny because over 20 years I've seen the changes in the way that people have approached that they'll treat it. One thing that I've seen was back in the day, it was people were given any kind of enhancers that would try to stimulate parts of your brain and everything else, because everybody felt that it was something that was slow happening, like serotonin, etc. And thinking that it was a lack of this and a lack of that. So some people have been thinking that it will treat it all by natural herbs and etc. And other people would say, well, you got to get on, your run of the mill anti-anxiety medications and things like that. I'd read up on the product itself, because then I would start to branch out and see, well, not only just people that are on OCD take something like Xanax or whatever those products were. And I really never really cared to run with their names, like Prozac or whatever they are. And I'd found though that people were like, hey, I took them, I was symptom free for a month, and then a few things pop up. I go back to my doctor, amp up another 5 and 10 milligrams on something. They get amped up on 5 and 10 milligrams on it. They feel like that they're really using it as a crutch to get through. Now 5 and 10 is no longer working. Now they're taking 10 pills in a day. The product now makes them feel side effects of depression, um, other things like thoughts of suicide, harming, and all these things that you see in the commercials, and it's like, well, how these a helpful product, and especially when it induces depression and thoughts of suicide, and is not something you want to go alongside with already struggling with your OCD. It's like, if I never really have those thoughts and processes going on already, why do I want to induce it? To, in other words, no longer worry about the door being locked, but I feel like shit. And it's raining out, and I want to go and get under a blanket because I don't feel so happy. Now, you see, like, somebody wants to go get a product that's going to be good for their COPD, or it's good for their Crohn's, or they're good for whatever, and it's like, hey, I might be able to control something, or I might be able to breathe better, and etc. But now I'm not sleeping at night, and now I'm bleeding, and now I have liver issues, and it's like, but hey, I'm sleeping, but now my liver's bleeding. Like, how does this work? Like, I don't want that. So I kind of always been fearful of going the medication route. But as time moved on, it was behavioral therapy that seemed to be something that was popping up for people with OCD. And I thought, well, this is interesting. I'll watch and see how the behavioral therapy thing works. And then with behavioral therapy, it was the idea that we'll make you touch something, and then they'll tell you it's not so bad. Can't wash your hands. Just sit there with your hands. Feel it out. Not so bad. And then they would talk to you about things, and they would calm your mind. And I thought, well, that's great. That works. But how do I invite somebody in to tell me that I got out of the shower fine and I didn't brush against the shower curtain, or I didn't do this and I didn't do that a certain way on a personal level? How do you do that in behavioral therapy? How do you duplicate a shower scene in the doctor's office? How do you duplicate the scene when it's not your front door, when it's the doctor's door, when he's like, looks locked to you, don't it? Let's turn this door handle. It locked, it sounds good, it feels good. But then it's not your door. So it's like, behavioral therapy to me isn't going to work. So I feel like that when I'm going to sit down with a doctor and deal with this eventually, and through my research, I find that everybody, it's like they hit the 20-year mark and they do it. And it's like, it's entering my mind now. It's like, what in OCD does that? Why? How do I relate with other people that have the same thing? Oh, it took 20 years.
Right.
It took before help and everything. And at my 8 and 10-year mark, I remember going, oh no, I'll never let it get that far. I'll figure this out. I'll eventually get that stage where, this will be over and done with.
Yeah, well, that's why I brought it all up, because, a lot of people that are listening are going to be like, why hasn't he just gone and gotten help or medicated himself? Why hasn't he just started therapy? And I'm glad that you answered that, and people get a better understanding of that.
Yeah, I don't feel it would be traditional therapy because I can't invite or have video conference with the doctor to watch me step out of the shower. And even if they're like, well, let's do it in a role play scenario where, or whatever, that you're dressed and then you can go through those steps or do it a certain way. Well, that's why I say my OCD doesn't click the same way as others' OCDs do. It's custom. Yeah. But I look at somebody else that maybe looks sad and, they're doing what they do. It's because they're reacting the way they react. That's how they deal with their depression. So when I'm fooling myself by saying I'm not depressed, but I'm happy in a world of depression, so I'm false happy. How do you put it? That I have a positive spin on everything I do. And I think that's exactly what we were saying about Mike. It's wrong for him to be, somebody would say he's an enabler and he'd freak out, be so upset with that person, say he's enabling it. But what is he doing?
Ah, yes, Michael. I've teased you long enough. It's time to hear from the loyal brother. Is he mad at the world for being Richard's caregiver? Let's find out. All right, so finally I've been threatening everybody, and here he is. How's it going, Mike?
It's going good. How are you?
Good, man. So let's get right to her. I've been telling people that you've been saying that Rich has been sugarcoating everything. Why don't you explain what you mean by the fact that he's sugarcoating everything?
Well, the way when he explains how his affliction is to him, he's kind of nonchalant, matter of fact, with, not say emotion, but with explanation of it's not sometime during the day, it's all the time during the day. It's from waking moment till closing the eyes and going to sleep, whenever that is. So it's something that through all the years of being directly involved and being around him with the OCD, seeing it affect every little nuance in life. 3-hour-long showers, scalding hot water, scrubbing his skin raw. Those were things, and thank God he's not to this day. I mean, he's changed up a few of his patterns, but they're still patterns. So it's an exchange for one for another. Those are, from an outsider or somebody not feeling that affliction, those are pretty heavy-duty things to watch somebody, and especially somebody that you care for, that's your family, to go through. He talks about in how, he's got a good support system with me and our family and our sister and stuff. We're very patient and trying to understand and help, but it really does not only have effect directly on him, but us and the extended family, yourself included.
So what you meant basically is that he talks about this matter-of-factly, but when you're looking at it, and you're looking at it from the inside, not from the outside,
right?
It's not matter-of-factly at all. It's pretty severe.
Yeah. It is pretty severe, and knowing him all my life, of course, being my brother and being close, knowing him previous to having this issue 15, 20 years ago, to having them now and seeing that difference, like being a carefree, almost careless person, always had a little nuance of little things like, oh, I don't like it that way or I don't like it this way, but not to the extent of altering an entire life or spending years in bed or isolated from the outside family or all these things, right? So,
right.
And those with mental illnesses are not doing it for attention or whatever. They have an affliction. It's something that they didn't ask for. I bet you if you had one person ever say in the history, say, yeah, I love having this mental illness, whether it's OCD or addiction or whatever, right? Like, it's just not something people sit there and go, yeah, I want this.
Well, I guess in some ways he's lucky that you recognize this, and I don't know how you haven't thrown a pillow on him in his sleep,
Well,
you know?
well, no, there's been trying times,
Yeah.
and even to this day, it's like sometimes I've gotten better at recognizing the start of a pattern. Usually, it's like, oh, this is just today, and I quickly call him on it and say, this is not something that I'm going to see you continue to do because we went through this already. And so, if you think I'm going to support a bunch of new or help you through a bunch of new stuff, and it feels bad to me because it's almost like saying, well, control your illness, and
Right.
people can't. But at the same time, I think it helps because it'll help him recognize, okay, maybe I need to not introduce that new thing.
No, nobody will see if you have to lay the odd beating on him, too, right?
Yeah, it's the after effect. It's the 2-hour shower after I beat him. No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess there's that, isn't there?
Yeah, there's that. Yeah,
Go ahead.
with your podcast, I'm very happy that he's done it. I think it's therapeutic that it's getting out there. Of course, having something like OCD used to be something a source of embarrassment, acceptance, and then being able to talk about it. There's always the concern he has that others listening to this would start to pick up on some of those tendencies as well. The point of it is not only for OC, but for any mental illness, is to understand the person, not the disease.
You're absolutely right.
And I'll be interested to hear all the feedback on the ones that hear this and how that all does, because I think people will find that there's a little bit of it in all of us.
So there you have it. I was waiting for Mike to unload with frustration and dejection. Instead, he hits us with awareness and empathy, sibling love. Inspiring, if you ask me. So now we're going to head back to Richard, and we're going to talk a little bit about beer.
I get about maybe 2 to 3 beers in, and OCD becomes nearly non-existent. It's something that in the alcohol that where you start to feel the intoxication coming on, and any kind of impairment, you could feel it. You could feel that you get up to go to the bathroom, you could feel lighter. You could feel that where you're having those moments where it's like, all right, I can't wait, I'm having more beer. These are going down great. Which leads into where I found that alcohol is actually a depressing, like a downer.
Yeah.
And I found that very strange because to me, alcohol is something that is actually very uplifting. And I've no desire to drink every day. I don't drink every day. I don't even have one beer. I have one day a week where I'll drink, and I may drink my day limit. I just can't stop at 2 beer. It doesn't work. But once I get through so much more of the alcohol, I can be standing there in my own worst surroundings when sober, and I'll just be like, that's okay. It'll be there tomorrow. And it will be there tomorrow. And I can see why people do turn to alcohol and drugs to squash whatever they're dealing with. Because the common saying everybody does say is, oh, rough day. I need a stiff drink.
Yeah.
It's because it loosens up what you went through for the day. Alcohol can have its moments where it can turn ugly. And then when it turns ugly, it becomes the blame. And when that becomes the blame, then that, it's something that you're abusing. And then it's no longer something you enjoy. So to me, to enjoy having a few beer and knowing that a Saturday night it disappears, put myself in a controlled environment, drink the beer, enjoy the beer. I enjoy the beer more than I do enjoy the fact that it took the OCD away. So it's treating it responsibly, actually, not even intentionally.
Before we wrap up, there is one very important detail Richard discusses. It's important because anyone touched by these issues has experienced this particular fallout.
So now when I think about, hey, Dave, it's been 7 years since we've last seen each other, etc., I don't feel like 7 years has passed. I feel like, hey, that was just not too long ago.
Yeah.
It's odd to look at pictures and see things that family and go, oh my God, everybody looks so different, and time has escaped. And I think about your mom and that, and I think what could possibly be going through their mind, how it was that we came into their family and came into the family and they came into our lives with such triumph like it did, and
Yeah.
we embraced each other greatly, and then all of a sudden phone calls start to break down and no longer calling, and time is just passing. And as I explained one time through text to you, I had mentioned to you that the phone calls stopped because it's like, how do I keep telling you, oh, we'll be there, we'll see you in a
Yeah.
few months, but how do you keep lying?
Yep.
And you can't help but lie, because that's how it's thing. And I hope you take it and understand what I was telling you moments ago, that it became to like, I just don't do it anymore. I don't talk about it, because it turned into seemingly lies. If I said we're going to do this and it never transpired, it would affect my OCD that much more, that I'd be like, now I look like a liar. It's just, how do you go and enjoy, like, say, Christmas or uh, an outing or an event like that at family and friends, when you walk in and say, okay, basically got to stand in your middle of your living room during the duration of this visit?
Yeah.
You get people that want to look at you and go, sit down, you're making me nervous, or I just don't understand what you're doing. Or so without these conversations and getting deeper involved into it, I can't. I just say, no, I can't.
I am so grateful as a podcast host to have the opportunity and means to share Richard's story. The sad thing is, it's time to wrap up. And there's no Hollywood ending. Or is there?
Since July, since we started this, I can tell and I can feel when somebody starts to understand something. And I'm feeling like I've expanded, and you're a new person into this, where you've listened, and your questions and your replies and things like that have given me and built confidence in me to know that you understand. There's been a lot of reply through you, and a lot of things that you've spoken of that are trigger words that I know that when I could feel that a person actually understands, because you may not realize it, but I can tell that you understand more than you do. And the reasons is because of the years of the going through it. It's been your reactions, your replies, your patience. Patience is the biggest way of displaying understanding.
Yeah.
Because there's difference between patience and tolerance. Tolerance is somebody who's sitting there going, well, I don't want to break that egg, so I'll just keep my mouth shut type thing. I know that you've got a podcast too that, it's a genuine wanting to share and getting to know a person, their personal feelings, their experiences, and their tribulations, ups and downs, and everything else. That shows that you, as the host and as the person you are, absolutely are taking it all in and understanding it and learning from all different aspects of it, instead of going, well, can't come over. Okay, why? Okay, well, that goes on. Well, that sucks. It's too bad that you go through that. Well, hey, well, maybe one day. You'll probably be in my backyard this coming summer. I don't feel that there's a light chance. I feel like that's definite.
Wow.
So I believe it's a big reality.
Well, that's huge. So maybe this series does end with a Hollywood ending after all.
With somebody with great understanding and of what's going on, like such as yourself, you'll be like, oh, I'm going to come and visit for an afternoon, and I'm bringing my own chair. I'd be like, when you get in here, if you do not want to walk in my house or get in the car, you could be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how simple it is. But try to have somebody that don't understand that when you say, you're more than welcome to come, but you can't sit in my patio furniture, can't sit in my house. So first thing I thought was, when I catch somebody that's going to understand something, what they're going to do is they're going to bring their own patio furniture. They're going to bring their own seating. So now you're going to be like, well, now I'm going to come and I'm going to sit around for the day, and I'm going to be like, you bring your own fold-out chair, you're more than welcome. Because only reason why I can is because I can feel the level of understanding that you've adapted from this podcast.
Right. You're going to be able to trust me.
That's right. I feel that it's there, and I don't feel like you're just a host of a podcast and doing this to talk to me and asking me questions. I'm actually hearing you and absorbing that you're taking it in and understanding, because you've given me the platform to be able to explain it.
Well, I am going to come visit you. I am going to bring my own chair. I'm going to bring a little portable fold-out table. I'm going to bring a cooler full of some kind of goodness. And I'm going to rent a tree out in the back, and we're going to spend a few hours together. I think that's just amazing.
But and you know what? And if I turn around and say, Dave, you just can't come in my house, and you turn around and say, I have no interest in that.
You probably have a shitty paint scheme, and I don't want to see it anyway.
You don't want the orange and brown wallpaper?
Yeah. It Happened in Ontario is recorded at Treblecock Studio in downtown Peterborough. For more information, go to treblecock.ca. Thanks as always to my dear friend Paul Thompson for the music.
I've blessed others, been blessed in return.